Hey guys, so in this video, I'm going to be going over how to add a neon light effect to your photos. So, first step is you're going to go to the little new layer button on the bottom of the layers panel. When you hover over it, obviously it says create a new layer, so that's how you'll know. And then we need to open up the brush tool. Remember, you can click B on your keyboard to get to that. You want to figure out how big of a line you want in terms of thickness. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to bring it down to like maybe 250, around there. And then the hardness, I don't want it to be too soft because then it kind of looks more like a feathered line, but I don't want it to be too hard either. So I'm going to put it at 75%, and that's kind of what the line's going to look like. All right, so next step is you're just going to draw a nice smooth line kind of crisscrossing. And remember, you can do this in multiple different ways, but the squiggly line is what I'm going to be going for. Now, if you have trouble getting a nice smooth line, you might want to go to the smoothing tool, which is, or it's not really a tool, but it's an option for the brush. Right now mine's at 50. If you really have trouble with like steadiness, you can go up to like 70, but this is working for me right now, so that's what I'm going to keep. Next step is just to add the layer styles. If you don't recall, layer styles are when you go down to the layers panel and you see that little effects button. So I'm going to click that, and the first thing I'm going to do is a color overlay. And it's going to open up a window. These are all of our blending modes. And right now, actually, it came up as a blue. Yours is probably going to come up like this gray color. To change the color, you got to click the little gray box right here. And you want to choose like a nice neon color, otherwise it's not going to really stand out as much. So I'm going to go with this purple color this time. And now I'm done with my color overlay. So my next step is to add an inner glow. And inner glow is actually found right here, but if you happen to like click OK on the layer style, you can also always access it again on the effects panel and just go right to inner glow. So this is the default. You start with a screen blend mode. I like to change it to normal. I also like to bring the opacity up to 100%, at least for the first, couple steps to see, how prominent that inner glow really is. Probably one of the most important steps is changing the source from edge to center so that the glow is coming from the inside. And then size changes how far out the glow kind of expands. So as I move towards the middle, you'll see that it'll show a little bit more of the color. I'm really liking how this is looking. And honestly, this is a part where I'm not going to give you specific numbers because it works better if you kind of just eyeball it for yourself. But this is definitely working for me. Now, if you want less of like a white glow, this is when you would go back and revisit the opacity to see if maybe you'd like it a little bit lighter. And that looks good for me for now, so I'm just gonna move on to the next layer style, which is outer glow. Now, this is the default, and the thing that I don't like about the default is that it's white. We want to change the color immediately to the same color or a similar color to our color overlay. So, I mean, I'm just going to eyeball it because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter if it's perfect. So I'm going to go to a purple color for my outer glow. Opacity, I am going to bring up to 50% for now. We can always change this later. And really the biggest thing that you're going to want to change here is the size, because the size, again, kind of tells us how far out that glow is going to go. And as I push it up, you'll see it's a lot more prominent. So I'm liking how this looks, and maybe I'll mess around with the opacity a little bit to make it a little bit more glowy. Yeah, that's good. Now I'm around like 70% opacity, and I'm loving how that looks. So I think we're all good for now. So now what we're going to do is we are going to make it so that it looks like it's kind of like wrapping around her as opposed to just being right on top of her. And the first step to do this is we have to go back to our background layer, or in this case, it's just the image of the girl. So we have to make sure that's selected. And then we go up to the select menu and we click subject. And what this is going to do is it's going to select the subject of the photo based on Photoshop's viewpoint on it. And it gets a really nice kind of good outline on the subject of the photo, which is great. And now that we have a selection of the girl, we want to make a layer mask of this, but we want to make the layer mask on that glowing line. So we have to go back up to our layer 1 or our glowing light layer, and then we are going to go down to the layer mask button, which is that little rectangle with the circle in it, and you'll see it makes a layer mask based off of the selection that we just did. Now we are going to invert, because what we want is we want the glowy light line to be behind her, not on top of her only. So to do this, if you go down to the properties panel, you can click invert, but you can also click Command I on your keyboard, and that works as well. All right, so we're getting a lot closer here. This, you could technically do this and it would be fine. But what I like to do is kind of like a special effect where it looks like it's wrapping around the subject. To do this, we need to edit our layer mask. And as we already know, white means active, black means inactive. So all we have to do is add a little bit of white on the areas where we want it to look like it's wrapping around. So right now I do have a white brush already. So I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger with my brackets on my keyboard and draw some white. And remember, I'm on my layer mask. This isn't going to work if I'm on this part of the layer. And yeah, perfect. So you could stop here, absolutely. But there is one step that I like to do to take it a little bit further, and that is to just colorize the entire photo. So to do this, we probably already know this, but to colorize, you have to make an adjustment layer, and you have to go to hue saturation. So adjustment layers are in that little circle. It looks like a black and white cookie. And then we click hue saturation. Perfect. So first, you always want to go and check off colorize first. And in this case, I like to bump up the saturation all the way. If you don't like it that bright, you can bring it a little bit lower, but I like it all the way. And this is what I meant before when I said that it doesn't really matter what color you do the outer glow, because you end up changing the entire thing anyways. So if I want to keep that purple style, this looks really cool because now it looks like that neon light is affecting literally every part of this photo, and it makes it look a lot more realistic. So that is pretty much it. At this point, if you want, you can save it and export it, or you can flatten the layer and do some more stuff to it. But that is the gist of it, guys. Thanks for watching, and I hope this helped.